Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Miasin. Today I'm actually going to show you guys how to destroy Red Eye's Dragoon. Well, not destroy because it can't be destroyed. You know what I'm saying. But before you start, friendly reminder to like and subscribe because it motivates me a lot to keep making videos like these. And yeah, well, actually, there is one thing that I want to say, to be honest. A lot of people did not understand what I was trying to say with my other, video about Red Eye's Dragoon. The review on it. Basically, most people commented, well, not most, but a lot of people commented something really irrelevant to the video, which is stop complaining, you can just Kaiju the card. That's just such a weird and, to be honest, very flawed way of thinking in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because that's basically implying that every card in Yu-Gi-Oh! Sucks because it has counters. So Pot of Greed can go back to 3 because you can just Ash the card. Soul Charge can go back to 3 because you can just Ghost Bell the card. Unfair, unbreakable boards are fine because you can just go Sphere Mode, Lava Golem, Sphere Mode. No, just no. Stop thinking like that. That's just not how Yu-Gi-Oh! Works. Not at all, because Red Eye's Dragoon, it is, like I said, a deck building constraint. It forces you to either play more engine cards that allow you to beat Red Eye's Dragoon, which is usually very hard because engine cards are very linear in the way they work, or you have to play a lot and way too many non-engine cards that allow you to beat it, like Kaijus and stuff like that, which I'm going to explain in 2 seconds. But the issue with these cards is that they reduce the consistency, especially if you're going first in your deck and you draw Kaijus. They're just blanks, and you have to take into consideration the fact that you can get a hand trap, you can also get yourself Kaiju'd, and if you just have Kaijus instead of having more extenders or cards that stop your opponent, then you're going to just get OTK'd and you're not even gonna have a chance to play that Kaiju. Alright, so now that this is out of the way, we are going to get into the number one way of outing Dragoon, which is simply by not even allowing it to hit the field on the first place. There is kind of 2 choke points to the summon of Dragoon. There is Ash on Red Eye's Fusion, and there is either Valor or Infinite on Anaconda. That's if you're going second, of course, and you don't have an already established board. Otherwise, I mean, Red Eye's Fusion, you really have to have a Speller Trap negate or an Ash specifically for it. You can have all the monster negates in the world. If for example, triple Jackal King, and that's just still not enough, they can easily use Dragoon's effect twice, and you're kind of screwed because you have to use all the effects of your Jackal Kings. The Dragoon stays, and then they just jump over one of your Jackal Kings. I mean, or you can do the other way around, but now you're just stuck with 2 Jackal Kings that do absolutely nothing. You can also use side deck cards to beat Dragoon, such as Super Poly, Kaiju's, Lava Golem, Sphere Mode. Kaiju's can be main decked in a going second deck, but like I said, in a going first deck, it wouldn't make sense. Same thing with Sphere Mode and Lava Golem, although Lava Golem and Sphere Mode, I wouldn't even play them in the main deck, even in a going second deck, unless it's really sketch, because it takes up your normal summons, so I can't really think of too many decks that would want to do it. And then, of course, there is Super Poly, which is just not applicable enough in the meta to be main decked. It's just, sure, it's good, but then you need 7 targets, literally, to make Super Poly good, and then you have you need 4 spaces in your deck to have targets for Maximus Dragma, so then at the end of the day you literally have no space for your own extra deck. And then there are some other typical really good cards that out Dragoon technically, but they kind of just especially bait the negate, or they only allow you to clear the Dragoon after you baited the negate, such as Ice Dragon's Prison and 3 Tactical Talents. So Ice Dragon Prison is really good because you can steal the Dark Magician from their graveyard and then banish both Dark Magician and Dragoon since they are both spellcasters. And then 3 Tactical Talents, if your opponent already used the effect of Dragoon to negate one of your cards, you can use it, steal the Dragoon because it does not target, it is a better change of heart, and then you can use the effect of Dragoon, pop 2 monsters on their field. I do not think you can use the negation of Dragoon. I'm not sure if Dragoon is a once per turn you can negate blah blah blah, or if it says you can negate blah blah blah, you can only use this effect once per turn. I'm actually going to have to check again. And then there's also a couple of link monsters that allow you to either jump over Dragoon or just get it out of the field when the negation is already used up. So Ningirsu is a perfect example. It's only a link 3, so as long as you find a way to out the Dragoon, bait the negation of Dragoon and then make Ningirsu, you're good. Or if your opponent actually just does not negate any of your cards and you can go all the way to a link 4, then you can either make access code target a link 3, like a unicorn that used as a material, which will become 53. Your opponent cannot respond to that, so you can either you can actually jump over a Dragoon that used the effect twice, or you can make a Boral Sword, make Dragoon go into defense, so regardless, even if it has 10,000 attack, once again, they cannot respond to Boral Sword defense changing, whatever position changing. I mean, it only changes from attack to defense. You cannot respond to that, and then you can just jump over because it only has 25 defense and it never gains 1,000 defense even when it negates stuff. So, and then there's also Borload, but that's less good, and it's really hard to get all the way to a link 4 monster, especially the 2 Boral monsters. You need to use 3 monsters for them. Access code is a bit easier because you can just use 2, but anyways, that's it for the very specific outside engine card. cards or like very situational cards that out Dragoon. Now let's get into the inherent engine cards that allow you to beat it. So the very first one is probably one of the funniest one. It's just Bigfoot. Literally Danger Bigfoot. If you reveal Danger Bigfoot when you're going second, you already have an 83% chance of not getting sniped and summoning it. So your opponent either has to just risk it and go on like try to pray that you hit the 17% chance of getting sniped, or he just negates it and then you cannot like crash over, but at least you baited out the negate of Dragoon and you still have 5 cards in the hand and you have your normal summon, so you pretty much didn't even lose anything. And if you drew like another Bigfoot, then you can reveal it again, so that's also something else. This is very practical in a deck like Grand Maju because you are definitely playing 3 Bigfoot in that deck. And speaking of Grand Maju itself is an out to Dragoon, ironically, because even if your Desires gets ashed or Dragooned or anything, if you can just normal summon your Grand Maju, that's already 4k attack. So if they ashed you, then you still have 10 cards banished, you normal summon Grand Maju, you attack over the Dragoon, and then that's it. They basically lost 2 negates and you had to use 2 cards and you still have, once again, 4 more cards in your hand. Now that we're done talking about Grand Maju, one of my favorite outs to Dragoon is World Legacy Succession, or technically any World Legacy monster. Now you might be wondering, how can this actually out Dragoon? Well, this is actually funny because if you can actually make a Link 2 or a Link 1 even, and then use World Legacy Succession, you can make a Lib and then turn that Lib into a Link Cross and then go Chain Link 1 Lib, Chain Link 2 Link Cross, so your opponent is forced to negate that Link Cross because, you know, your Lib is in Chain Link 1, so regardless of what your opponent does, Lib is going to shuffle back the Dragoon. It doesn't target, by the way, and it doesn't destroy, it shuffles back with it, which is the exact same clause as Ignister. So, you know, that's actually very, very easy, and even if your opponent negates the World Legacy Succession, well, you can still do just that, and if he doesn't, well, you're in business, to be honest. I want to say World Legacy Succession is especially good in Orcust, but it could also see play in other decks. Once again, speaking of Orcust, Longirsu and Dingirsu are both very good outs to Dragoon because none of them target and none of them destroy. They both send and they kind of have like built-in protection to like card effects. So even if I think Longirsu is by card effects, yes, and Dingirsu is like protect any card on your field. So even if they negate you, your card still stays on the field, so you can just make another one. Like if you use Longirsu's effect, then you just make Dingirsu right after, send the Dragoon, and you're good. So actually this card really destroys, this deck really destroys Dragoon, to be honest. After that we have Fleur de Lis, the Dragma monster. I think it's the hand shop one. So if you can just bait the negation of Dragoon, or not even necessarily bait it, but just have like Ecclesia already on the field, and then or Maximus, whatever, and then have the Fleur de Lis in your hand, and then like something happens and your opponent uses the effect of Dragoon, or your opponent drops to 0 cards in hand because he's trying to play on his turn, sorry, you can just use the effect of Fleur de Lis, not only negate their effect of Dragoon, but also like to pop, but also negate all of their effects to like negate. Pop is just when they have like no cards in the hand, otherwise they would just chain the effect to negate, but you get what I'm saying. Also, Dragma Invoke can also make Merkaba, which is another one, and once again another way to kind of check Dragoon's negate, because it negates and banish, doesn't negate and destroy. So to be fair, that deck actually has quite a few plays and can play 3 Tactical Talents, Merkaba, Fleur de Lis. That's a lot of ways to clear, at least stop Dragoon. After that, we have Ray or Rose or Hornet, depending on what you open in your Sky Striker deck. So if it's Ray, it's kind of better because you can go normal Ray, make Hayate, and then attack over the Anaconda. Your opponent takes 1,000, and then during like damage calculation, you send the Rose, and then after Anaconda is destroyed, the Rose from the graveyard would trigger, and then your opponent is 100% forced to negate that, because otherwise, when you special summon back the Rose from the graveyard, you negate Dragoon once again without targeting, which is the main keyword of this video. Basically, anything that negates or banishes or sends to the graveyard without targeting is always going to be the key to outing Dragoon. So your opponent is forced to negate, and then you still have like a Gary access, Shizuku access, 5 cards in hand, and yeah, your opponent already had to waste his Dragoon negate on just something that was trying to like come back from the graveyard, you see. After that, we have an Eldritch card that not everyone plays, but I think is really good. It's Guardian of the Golden Land. It is 2500 defense, so you know, it's a pretty good card if you're trying to like stay alive. But basically this card is kind of like Conquistador and Hakuero in the fact that it doesn't target, but this time it actually reduces the attack of a monster to 0, so you can use this to force your opponent to negate with Dragoon. If you have this plus Eldritch, the Golden Lord access, you can use the effect of Eldritch from the hand to try to send something to the graveyard. Your opponent is pretty much like kind of forced to like let it go through, and then you use the grave effect of Eldritch to try to special summon it back. It would have 35, and since Dragoon has 3000, he is forced to negate that, and then you can use like, I don't know, a Scarlet or Black Awakening or something to like special summon like Eldritch, and then use Guardian to like put the attack of Dragoon to 0, and then you jump over and you're good. After that, we have an Adamancipator monster, Adamancipator Analyzer. There is also kind of Guardian, but it's less good. Analyzer is really unique because if you go like Reveal to special summon, your opponent is like in a really bad situation because he's kind of forced to negate the effect from the hand. Otherwise, you can just like special summon it, normal summon any level 4 rock non-tuner, make Dragite, crash on Dragoon, and then you once again still have 4 cards in hand. You can have like Block Dragon plus an extender, like Researcher or something, and then you're kind of like you're basically gooch at this point. Or you can actually just try to risk it with the Analyzer, like special summon and then use the effect. If your opponent ashes you there, then it's even better because you got even more value. But if he uses Dragoon, then you have 5 cards in your hand and you still, once again, didn't use your normal summon. Magna Rocket Dragon is a card that Dragon Link could use to like clear Dragoon, because if it is targeted by a Link monster's effect, so Striker Dragon, which can search the field spell, what's the name of the card again? I forgot. Anyways, the field spell for Dragon Link, you can special summon Magna Rocket from your hand and then try to pop it, recycle back a dragon monster, like a rocket monster from your graveyard, and then once again your opponent is basically forced to negate either the Striker Dragon or the effect of your Magna Rocket Dragon when it tries to destroy itself. But since your opponent is destroying your Magna Rocket, it's still going to use the like end phase effect to try to special summon Rocket Tracer from your deck, so you're pretty much gaining a lot of value and you're breaking boards, which is kind of nice. After that, there is one of the simplest ways to out Dragoon, which is Lost World plus Overraptor or just Conductor Tyrannos summon. So if you can go activate Lost World and your opponent does not negate, you go Chainlink 1 Overraptor, Chainlink 2 Lost World. Once again, let's just say your opponent does not negate, you give them the token, you search for Miscellaneousaurus, and then you use Miscellaneousaurus's effect from hand, and now it's getting more tempting to like negate it, right? Because now if you use the effect to like try to pop the baby, you know, he's gonna have to deal with like too much, and now your Overraptor is just unaffected by card effects. So if he's trying to negate the Overraptor, it just does nothing, and then you can send like Baby Sarasaurus from like your deck to try to summon something. He could negate that, but then you just spell it, like use the effect of Miscellaneousaurus from your hand, from your graveyard, sorry, potentially summon Animadorn, pop like Overraptor, search your pill, and then make Link Rebo, make Secure Gardna, activate Double Evolution Pill, summon Conductor, pop Secure Gardna, flip the Dragoon face down, attack over everything, and congratulations, you outed Dragoon without any sweat. Another pretty solid card, this time in zombies though. One of my favorite decks in the entire game is Doom King Balor Dwatch. So it is just very simple. It can either negate a monster effect in the field or in the graveyard as long as it's a zombie. Zombie World makes it very easy to do, or it can banish any monster from your opponent's field or graveyard. I mean, technically even yourself. That is, when a zombie effect is activated, quite easy to trigger during your own turn. It unfortunately cannot use both effects in one, like in one chain link, which is the only issue. Like you can't just say like, okay, I'm gonna use the banishing effect. Oh, you're trying to negate me with Dragoon, I'm going to negate you. Obviously that would have been unfair. I think if you have 2 Doom Kings, you might be able to, but one Doom King can't really like go Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2. Well, I mean, Chainlink 2, Chainlink 4, you know, on him just by himself. After that, there is Lair of Darkness. So if you activate the Lair, the field spell, your opponent is 100% forced to negate, because if he doesn't, you can just go normal summon the Lilith or Arima, or like special summon any Infernoid, tribute his Dragoon, and he can't respond to that because it's tributing for cost, and by the time you're using the effect, activating, like officially, his monster is no longer even on the field. So very practical in like Infernoids, Lair decks, stuff like that. After that, there's Numeron Network. So Numeron Network is kind of like a weird one because it really has to resolve. If it doesn't resolve, then it just doesn't work. But if you have Numeron Network plus Numeron Calling, it's a guaranteed that it works because you just activate Numeron Network. Actually, it's not a guaranteed because he can negate the activation of Numeron Network, but you know what I'm saying. Like, worst case, you would just draw 2 Numeron like networks. But you activate Numeron Network, then you use Calling. Let's just say that gets negated. Use the effect of your Numeron Network, then you summon your 4, like number 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, and then you can either make Sanya, or you can make Mega Clops and crash, or you can just jump over and they all gain, like, they double their attack every single time. So I think that's almost lethal too, because you can have a 4k monster that attacks over Anaconda, and then an 8k monster that attacks over Dragoon. So 4k damage, 35, no, your opponent is left with 500. That's kind of bait, but still not too bad. Next up is Time Thief Redoer. So this card actually actually would have to require, it would require you to have like a trap card underneath, because you can use the Phoenix Wing Wind Blast that doesn't target the trap effect, which is pretty much the best effect of Redoer. But this is only practical in, I guess, rank 4 decks, or technically even at Emancipator, since they can play Shade Brigandine. It's a pretty good card in that deck. It also makes Link Spider, but it depends, honestly. It really is if you, it depends on if you want to play that card, or if you want to have Time Thief Redoer in your extra deck. It also outs Mega Clops, which is another really annoying card. Mega Clops, by the way, is another card that outs Dragoon, so Zodiac, for example, you see. And finally, last but definitely not least, this is by far my personal favorite, and the one method that I use the most is Cyber Dragon plus any normal summonable monster with 1000 attack or less, granted your opponent has Anaconda or any monster in the extra monster zone. So I'm going to explain myself. Let's just say that I have Cyber Dragon plus Ash and I'm going second. I go Special Summon Cyber Dragon, Normal Summon Ash, make El Mirage with the Ash, and then my opponent also had a monster in the extra monster zone. I have a monster in the extra monster zone, so I Contact Fuse for 3. My Mega Fleet will have 36. Dragoon didn't negate anything yet because I didn't even use any activated effects, so it cannot gain that 1000. So I'm at 36, my opponent is at 3000. I jump over. I have 4 cards on my field, like in my hand, and I'm pretty much gooch at this point. That's pretty much it on how you beat Dragoon of Red Eyes. If you guys have any comments or feedback, let me know in the comment section below. Please don't forget to like and subscribe because it motivates me a lot to keep making videos like these. That's pretty much it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.